sound setting here and see if this works. Is there any sound now? Refreshed my browser and still no sound. All right, well, thank you for testing it out for me. I am going to try it one more time. Let's see. Is there any sound now? Oh, yay, hooray, there is sound. Awesome. Okay, so what I was saying was that, and thank you so much for helping me troubleshoot this. What I was saying was that I'm doing this watercoloring with stencils class on Friday at 10 o'clock, and that's not what I'm just announcing that here, but I am going to show you what I'm working on so you can have a look at what my mornings look like. But Friday 10 a.m. is the watercoloring with stencils. I'll be using the Distress Ink reinkers. I'll be using my palette, my brushes, my rag, and any kind of stencils that I have. So you don't have to worry, don't stress about stencils. It's any stencils you have are fine. They can be big, they can be small, they can be Mylar stencils, they can be acetate stencils, they can be stencils you hand cut with paper. We'll use all kinds of stencils. But this is a fundraiser. It's only $2.99 to join. And if you join it and you're not able to come on Friday at 10 o'clock, that's totally fine. You'll still have access to see it over the weekend or whenever you have time. So just know that if you've invested $2.99 and you're not able to come on Friday, you'll have access later. And this is a fundraiser, so all the money is going to go to the California Fire Foundation. And I'm going to try switching my view here so you can see what's on my table. And I am just trying this out to make sure that people are able to view what I'm doing. And let's see if I can switch the picture in picture so that you actually get to see. There we go. Okay, so now I'm small and the desktop should be big so that you can see what I'm doing here. So again, this is a test broadcast to make sure that there are no glitches on Friday, because if people are paying for the class, I don't want to waste their time trying to figure out this app. So what I am doing here, you see on my table, so I usually work with this magnetic, it's the Wendy Vecchi Make Art station. And what I like about it is that I can just hold it up. I have an easel, I prop up my whatever I'm painting up here. I try not to tilt it when I am trying to do paintings that are very specific. This is my first layer, so I have it tilted. I like to kind of move my paper around to move the water and to move the color with the water, so it's helpful that way. I have these little magnets that I can put on to make sure that my paper stays in place. So you can see that this one I cut out, and I can just stick it on here. So it's helpful to have this. It also works with stencils, but for Friday, I know that many people will not have this kind of a magnetic sheet to lay their work on. So we are going to be using removable adhesive. This is what I use. A lot of people use Pixie spray, which is nice to have, but since we're going to be indoors, we're still not going to be able to go outside. There's still a lot of smoke here. I try to avoid sprays as much as I can. I'm very sensitive to them, and they're not good for the environment anyway. So I figured we could use some temporary adhesive. So this is what I'll be using to stick down my stencils on the watercolor paper. I will be using the watercolor postcards because I am painting on these, and then I'm able to mail them out to friends because they have this on the back. So just place a stamp, write their address, write a little note over here. I also sold a bunch of these. I made 10 of these because I miscalculated how many cards I needed to have to raise $1,000 last weekend. So I had to make these, and it was really quick. So that's what gave me the idea of, we're all looking for quick ways of doing some art, and this is a perfect way. When you have these watercolor postcards, you just paint directly on them, especially with stencils. It makes it super easy, and you're able to bring joy to someone's life. Isn't that cool that you make something like literally in 10 minutes and you're able to mail it out right away? So I just thought it was a brilliant thing to do, and that's why I'm sharing it on Friday. So because we're here and I'm testing this out, do give me your feedback. Let me know if something's not working. Thank you for helping me with the sound check. But I'm going to paint this flower here. And my challenge to myself with this, so this is a stamp set from Stampers Anonymous. And it's a Tim Holtz stamp set. So this is the stamp. And what I did was I used Gina K Designs amalgam ink. So it's this one, the Warm Glow. And when you stamp with this particular ink on watercolor paper or any paper, cardstock even, it is basically for no line coloring. So you can see how faint this is. It's a very faint impression. This has been stamped 3 times because I need to be able to see what I'm painting. Earlier, I had stamped it once, and I will show you the difference. You can barely see. I could not see what I was doing. So I somehow managed, with this one light print impression of the ink, managed to paint this. But it was hard because I couldn't see what I was doing, so I kind of made up a lot of these petals. It worked out, but that's not the ideal thing. That's not what you want. So what you want to do if you're doing no line coloring is that you want to stamp at least 2 to 3 times with this Warm Glow, or you could use antique linen, which is the distress ink if you have that, and that kind of dissolves because it's water reactive. It dissolves as you're painting, which is also a cool effect. You basically, the point is you don't want to see any lines, right? You don't want to see any outlines when you're painting. So the amalgam ink, the Warm Glow, really works well with that. That's the kind of impression you get when you stamp 3 times. And then all I really do, my challenge for myself, I was saying, was to use colors I haven't used a lot of. I tend to gravitate towards picked raspberry, salty ocean, and mustard seed. Those are my go-tos, and I'm able to mix them and make a lot of different variations. But for this particular bouquet of flowers that I'm making, I thought I'll use colors that I've never used before. So I used milled lavender for this flower here. And this is an interesting one because I thought it would be more purple, but it's not. It's more like a smoky gray, which is an interesting shade to have in a flower. I also used seedless preserves and worn lipstick together for this scarlet colored dahlia that I've been painting this morning. This is what I was doing this morning right before I decided I wanted to test out the broadcast. And then this one is dried marigold. This one is picked raspberry. This was one of the first ones I did because, you know, I'm comfortable with that color. So I started out with that, but now what I'm doing is an odd color. I've never used, I in fact I took the plastic off of this bottle this morning. This one is called Blueprint Sketch. So I'm using this one for this, I believe it's a peony. And my technique is to do wet on wet. So what I do is I dip my brush. I'm using a Princeton Neptune Zero brush. And what I do usually is that I just kind of paint the area that I'm about to add color to just with water first. And I've got this at an angle, so the color is going to stay at the bottom if I want the bottom to be darker. If I want it to paint from the top and have the color flow down, then that works too. So I just do that, and then I take a micro drop, literally a micro drop of the color, and just go around the top edge. And you'll see it's already started bleeding. So it starts kind of coming down by itself, and then I just help it on its way by dipping my brush in water again and just lightly dabbing it. So there, it just kind of does its thing, and it starts looking like there's depth, there's movement, and there's variation. You can see that this petal looks very different from this petal here versus this petal there. And while I still have some water in my brush, I'm just going to lightly fill this in, again for some variation and also to kind of blend out this outline. And we'll come back to this petal later. So this one, because it's wet, I'm not going to paint anything near this petal right now. I'm going to leave this be. I'm going to move on to a section like over here, far away. The reason for that is that if I touch any area near this, it may look like it's dry. It's not. It's still pretty wet. Let me see if I can show you up close. So when you kind of tilt it in the light, you're able to see if it's damp or not by the shine. There's still a little bit of shine in that. So since there's shine and I'm not doing negative painting today, I'll be doing that on Friday, I'm going to leave this area be, not touch it. So now I'm going to move on to my next petal, which is going to be over here, far away from the one I just did. And again, the same technique where I just paint around in the area that I want to introduce color in. Make sure it's completely saturated with water. And then I just introduce my color at one part of the flower, which is I usually go by the top of that petal, and then I just kind of bring the color down. It's really easy. I mean, any kind of watercoloring you do, whether it's with paint palettes or with tubes, it's really, this is the technique that I would follow. And so you see how this line over here is much thicker than this line over here, but that's fine. It's a flower, that's, that's natural variation. If you feel like you wanted to add more depth while it's still wet, that's when I would do it. While it's still wet, just go with your brush and just kind of drag it. Just press it down and just drag it. And then just let it be. That's how much color you want, and that's it. And since I'm on a slope, if I tilted this, it would just kind of run down and it would just do its own thing. So it makes its own striations in that petal without me having to use my brush. It's just the water kind of playing with the ink and doing their own thing. So this is the kind of demonstration I will be doing on Friday, where I will pause, I will let you understand the process. You can type into the comments. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them live about products being used, about technique being used, about variations in the technique. I'm happy to share what I know, and some of you might have ideas on how to make it different, how to do it differently. But I'll be doing negative watercoloring with stencils. I don't have any of my postcards that I made last week, and I shipped all of them out. Otherwise, I would share examples, but I did share pictures in the event page. And let me see if I can add a link to the event page here so you can see it. But in the discussion area of this event page, there is information and there's examples of the kinds of postcards I made. I will be using stencils, and then I'll be adding some negative play around them. So it doesn't just look like you painted through the stencil and you were done. You could do that, that's pretty easy too, but that's something you could do on your own. What I want to show you is my way of making it a little bit more, taking it another level up, and having fun while doing it. So I'll continue painting this flower. I appreciate you all being guinea pigs for today. I added a link to the event. It's $2.99. It's a fundraiser. If you're not able to make it on Friday at 10 o'clock, you can watch it another time, so don't worry about that. And spread the word, the more the merrier. It's open to 50 people. I think last I checked there were 36 spots still open. So thank you to everyone who's already registered. And those who haven't, please consider doing that. And also share with your friends, because it's for a good cause. I'm donating all the money. So I'll see you on Friday, and thank you again for helping me test this out. I appreciate it.